Well, all right, guys, welcome back. Let's get back to it. Today, I want to take a look at some more miniatures. I've kind of got a new layout here. Hopefully, I'll be able to get everything in focus like I want it to be. But today, I want to talk about something really cool that caught my eye a while ago. Some new at the time, miniatures from Gale Force 9. See, like I've said before, miniatures have gone together with D&D like peanut butter and jelly, and going back to at least late original D&D, early AD&D, there have always been official Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, whether it was made by Perrin or Grenadier, or when D&D, rather TSR, was doing their own miniatures in-house. There was always a regular miniature line, and that goes on today. But a cool thing that Gale Force 9 has done, or was doing, I should say, is they have actually created classic AD&D adventure encounter miniature sets or dioramas, however you want to consider these. And so I thought we'd take a look at some today. And the first one we're going to take a look at here is, now, this particular one, you may recognize the name, if not the actual illustration on the cover, photo on the cover. This is Kesnef, the Ogre Mage from S2 White Plume Mountain. And this particular set here was released by Gale Force 9 back in 2012, and it's one of a limited edition of 1,500. Now, I still see these on the internet. I still see these for sale for the MSRP of $50, but I'll talk a little bit about the price later. So what you get with this set here is a pretty nice little box. I'm a sucker for good packaging, and this is fairly nicely packaged. This particular box here, it's got good graphics on it. As far as the actual miniature itself, as you can see here, that's kind of an interpretation of what Kesnef might look like. We only really have sort of a faint line drawing of him in White Plume Mountain in any edition of it that's come out. So that's kind of the sculptor taking some artistic liberties with him. But, and I'll turn this over and hopefully be able to get this in focus here, that is a pretty good representation of Kesnef in halfling form in the module there. And of course on the back they have the 4-color cover for White Plume Mountain there. And then you can take a look at the back. There's the unpainted mini. And I just want to point out, these are resin minis. These are not metal. And then they've got this one painted here. And they've got a little cover blurb on the back. I'll bring that up. I'm sure you probably don't want to spend time trying to read it because it just kind of covers details that we're already aware of. So this particular set, it's pretty nicely packaged, and I'll just go ahead and unbox it. This isn't an official unboxing. I've had this open before. So you see the flap opens, and I'm definitely going to keep this box when I'm done assembling the miniature. It's got good reinforcement there. You can see that. That's a nice cardboard reinforcement on the box so it doesn't crush easy. And then there's just 2 bubble wrap baggies in there. I'll set the box to the side so we can kind of focus on the minis. And the first one is our halfling. I can get that out of there. And that's a pretty nicely detailed mini. I know I'm showing his back. I just kind of want the camera to get in focus, show us a little bit of detail. And I'll take a look at the front. Can you focus there? It's kind of working with my camera here. Yeah, so you can get a pretty good idea that's not a bad little sculpt. Little bit of flash that's going to have to be cleaned up once I trim him off. There we go. And he's got a good looking base. Now that's a wood textured base. That's actually so I don't have to paint that on or come up with my own kit bash for that. And then there's a little stand of books that goes on the base with him, or not, depending on your wants and needs. And so that's the whole halfling miniature there. And we'll come over and we'll take a look at everything you get with the Ogre Mage. It's a little more detailed. So these are his arms, quite literally. And there's a lot of flash on these, but it's pretty flimsy. I can probably take that off carefully with a fingernail, and if not, just a gentle touch with a hobby knife and file to clean that up. And just turn that around there. That's a pretty nice sprue. Everything's held on nice and firm. This did come off of it. This is just kind of a bit of Kesnef's clothing that just sort of popped off of the sprue. And I almost missed this in the box. This was floating around in the box. So if you get something like this, always check the box for any extra parts. So I would have missed that. And then we have the base here. Now this is a nice base. And what I like about this is, like the Halfling Mini, it's got the wood, but it's also got this carpet corner here. That's actually molded into the base. That's not painted on. If you look at the cover, we'll just bring that back over. If you look at the cover here, that's not free-handed on. So when I paint this up, that'll be a bit of easier detail to get to. And then here's the Ogre Mage's body itself, and I'll try and bring that in. Yeah, this is a pretty nicely detailed sculpt. I don't really have too many issues with it. There's going to be a little bit of cleanup to do. I'm not a huge fan of resin minis. I would prefer metal, but given the price point on these, I would rather have had it and it be in resin than not at all and go, gosh, look at that expensive mini that I can't afford. And so that's the Kesnef set. Like I said, this is a nice box. I'm going to keep this box. Probably just set it up for display. It's definitely a good painting guide if you want to do that. You notice he's got the freehand dragon on his stomach there. Yeah, just speaking from my own painting ability, that's not going to happen. What I do have are decal transfers that I can make. I've got inkjet decal printer paper, so I'll probably just bash something together to get kind of a similar effect. Because, fellow Delvers, I ain't that good. that's a little above my pay grade when it comes to painting ability. So let's go ahead and set the Kesnef set aside and just move that, pardon me, for a minute. And we'll take a look at the second set, which has a little bit more utility. And it is the Scourge of Sudurham from Assault on the Area of the Slave Lords, module A3. Yes, that is A3. And these are the 5 bad guys that characters will face in the ultimate fight at the end of the module. We have Millerjoy, we have Feetla, we've got pretty much the baddest dudes in the module. And the nice thing about these is, at least just from a pure gaming standpoint, is you can get other uses out of them. Just like you could use the Halfling from the Kesnef set in any other scenario. Same with the Ogre Mage. They're not fixed to a diorama or anything. You can use these for just about whatever you want. Similar box as far as the graphics and so forth goes. You've got a little blurb there. Ooh, that's not coming in right. You've got the Gale Force 9 logo. There we go. Thank you for focusing. The WotC logo and the Hasbro watermark there, of course. And then on the back, we've got Neralas and Mordremo, Millerjoy, Feetla, Ajaxu. Yeah, we've got all the bad guys there. And as it says, that is the actual size. These are advertised as being 32 millimeter. I don't really see them as that much bigger or smaller than what's kind of considered the standard, quote-unquote, 28 millimeter miniatures these days. I actually measured the Halfling from the Ogre Mage set up against a Reaper Halfling. And believe it or not, the Reaper Halfling was about 2 millimeters taller. And that was just, I measured them foot to eye on each. And the Reaper Halfling is about 2 millimeters taller. So when Reaper says they're heroic 28 millimeter, and Gale Force 9 is saying no, or rather Gale Force 9 is saying we have 32 millimeter minis, well, who's telling the truth and who's not on scale? But then I'm not a scale junkie when it comes to fantasy miniatures on the tabletop. I just like stuff that looks good as long as it's not too out of whack as far as scale goes. I mean, if you prefer true 25, these are probably going to seem giant to you. Or even if you're doing like 15 or 20 millimeter, these are going to be like storm giants compared to your regular stock and trade minis. So with that said, let's dig into the box and see what we've got. A similar box. Now this doesn't have the cardboard reinforcement in it. I don't know if that's because they've got so much content in here or what. We'll just go ahead and get everything out. And each mini comes in its own bag. I'll just set that aside. I'll take a couple out to show you. I think you're kind of getting the general idea, and then I'll sort of sum up and give my thoughts. So we've got, who is this here? That is Feetla. He's a Buccaneer. He's a 4-piece mini, body, saber, shield, and crossbow there that actually sits on his back. And the shield arm is molded to the back of the shield. You can see that. Sorry for flipping all this stuff around. Now, one thing that doesn't show well, and I'm going to try and get that to focus. There we go. That's okay-ish. I'm not crazy about these sculpts. Not for what I paid. These are okay sculpts of these minis. Or, well, I should say castings. These are okay castings of these minis. They're not as good as the White Plume Mountain miniatures, I don't think. Your mileage may vary, but for the price point, which I'll discuss in just a second, I don't think they're that nice. I'll pull one more out. Maybe you can get a good view on this. Maybe we'll get a little bit of focus in there. But these are going to require, these are going to require more than just a little bit of cleanup. And personally, I think if you want to recreate the Slave Lords, if you're running A3 and you absolutely want miniatures, you can find better from Reaper or from Ironwind Metals, which is Ralpartha now. I just think you can do better than these in terms of sculpt. I mean, I'm glad I have them, and I only got them because I was able to get them on a deep discount, but this particular set I don't think are great sculpts. Gale Force 9 usually puts out a pretty good product. I've gotten some of their basing materials, but I'm not crazy about the sculpts. One thing I do like about this set is, and you kind of got a brief glimpse of it on the back of the box, are these bases for each character. These are nicely detailed bases, which I guess is, given that Gale Force 9 does a lot of sculpting materials and hobby stuff, they're kind of in their own wheelhouse there. These are lovely little ruined stone dungeon type bases. So I like those. That's a good point. So let's talk a little bit about the price. The MSRP on each of these sets was, I believe, $50. I picked up the Ogre Mage set for $15 and the Slave Lords for $35. So I paid $50 for a grand total of 7 miniatures. Now, $50 for 7 miniatures that are made out of resin is, for me, kind of pushing it a little bit in terms of what I prefer to pay. If I had paid $50 each for these sets, given that they're resin, and particularly given the not so hot quality of the Slave Lord set, I would be I don't want to say I would feel ripped off. I just couldn't recommend it. To be frank, I still can't recommend it. And if you're a collector and you feel like you've got to have the Scourge of Sudurham, these guys are sculpted to look exactly like the art on the cover of A3, or even the Ogre Mage from A2. If you're a collector, hey, go for it. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you should and shouldn't buy, but in terms of real value, real gaming value, I just think you can do better than these. And that's not a knock on Gale Force 9 as a company. The limited to 1,500 set, they don't have any more for sale, as far as I can tell, at the Gale Force 9 website. But I have seen them on other retailers like Amazon. I got these through an Amazon reseller, but they came from the War Store. Neil at the War Store was selling these. So I don't know if he still has any in stock now. So if you want to get these, while they are available, yes, they mean it when they say limited number available. So go ahead and get them now. And the only other thing I would mention is that they did do other sets for first edition AD&D. There's a Tomb of Horror set and a Lost Cavern of Sojkanth set. I was kind of interested in Tomb of Horrors. Lost Caverns of Sojkanth, not at all. Not at all. The sculpt of Drelsna was terrible, and it wasn't helped by a meh paint job on the box and in the various website photos. So overall, value for money, not very good for these miniatures. The Slave Lords are kind of meh sculpts. They're neat to have. I got them because I had an Amazon gift card, and I thought you guys would want to have a look at them. Really, the only thing that I can see these for are for the extreme collector. Otherwise, you can do better, so do so. Now, this isn't a knock on Gale Force 9 as a company. It's just these are not great minis. And I'm also not knocking resin miniatures as a whole, because in a video that's coming up, I'm going to talk about other resin miniatures and what I think of them. So thanks for watching. If you liked, click the like. If you really liked, subscribe. If not, leave a post and tell me why. If so, leave a post and tell me why. Thank you very much for watching. Glad to be making videos again. And everybody take care. Bye-bye till next time.